everybody. You are very welcome to a new Redefining Cybersecurity Podcast here on ITSPmagazine. I'm Sean Martin, your host. And as you know, if you listen to the show, I get to talk to cool people about cool things, all cyber, helping the business grow and stay safe. And I don't know that many cool people. That's why I know one in particular, Mr. Michael Piacente, and he's the one that's connected to lots of amazing people. And he's brought with him Heather to the show, and Heather Hinton. I'm excited to get to chat with her. Michael, how's it going?
It's going well. I got to meet a cool person when I met you, so that's how the love affair started.
You're too kind. Too kind. This is starting to remind me like the episode we did in Vegas.
A little bit, yeah.
It was a little strange in the beginning.
When Heather and I, when Heather sees the awkward stares from one another, then we can do that.
That's right.
Live
well,
TV.
This is really cool. It's part of the CISO Circuit Series that Michael and I do. Every now and then we can both find time on the calendar that aligns. We're not someplace else from our home, and we can actually have a chat with somebody who's also available. And usually folks in the CISO role and connected to the security community are often very busy. But we get to talk about the CISO role and the experiences people have and how that connects to business and ultimately society as well. So Michael, what are we doing today?
Yeah, today, first of all, I know you're in LA, so just wish all the good people of LA safety and peace down there. So I know you're right in the thick of it there. So be safe down there as well.
I echo those sentiments as well.
Yeah. So today we wanted to introduce Heather Hinton, who and Heather, I apologize the adjective, but I view you as very much a luminary in the cybersecurity world. You've kind of forgotten more about this business than most of us have ever learned. And I had an honor of meeting you a couple of years ago, and just really gotten to know you a bit through PAC, which we'll certainly get into. But just a little bit about your background. I'd love to understand sort of the maneuvering as an exec search guy. I'm always interested in people's histories and how they became to be where they are today and what sort of formulates their opinions. And so I know Heather started out actually in college, school, University of Toronto, PhD in electrical and computer engineering, a master's to boot. Then I think you started at Accenture, which for those who are under my age group, that is now Anderson, that is now called Accenture. So Anderson with an EN at the end. We used to always make that mistake. Yep. Then you went off to be a professor, adjunct professor, which is really fascinating. And then it was crazy. Then you went, spent a long time over at Tivoli, a distinguished engineer, among other things. You ended up as the VP and CISO for IBM's cloud unit for quite some time, a decade or so. And then stops at Ring Central and, excuse me, my computer's about to go dark on me. Ring Central, and I actually met you when you were the CISO at PagerDuty, the inaugural CISO at PagerDuty, and it was just kind of an honor to watch your trajectory. And then you've been kind of the founding members, one of the founding members, along with our mutual friends Val and Tyson Kopczynski and Steve Zielinski and a lot of others for this amazing organization called PAC, Professional Association of CISOs. So let's kind of start at the beginning, Heather, and kind of how from a wee young lady, where did this all start, and just anything you want to cover in your background, because I always think it's super fascinating to look at your history.
Thanks. Thank you for that really kind introduction. So I describe my security journey sort of as a random walk. I think in many ways I am representative of many people who end up as a CISO, in that we have done all sorts of different things, and in doing so have built up a resume of lots of different experiences, which are all things that are needed to be a CISO. when I started, there was no such thing as CISO, to be clear, right? I started in security before Steve Katz. So, that's part of
Yeah.
how I've been able to do so many things. I've been around for a while.
Pre-SK is a long time ago. Yeah. So
That's right.
yeah.
And I think what brought me into security to start with and what has kept me there is that this really fascinating combination of really interesting problems that directly impact people.
Hmm.
It's one of those few areas where you can be a technical expert and you have to be aware of the impact of what you're doing on people. And this started with originally with the Morris worm, which was an incredibly cool and exciting and intellectual exercise that completely got out of control. And, what we don't really remember or what we really focus on is the impact on the people, right? On Bob Morris Sr., on Bob Morris Jr. And that was, for me, this incredible revelation in terms of how technology and in particular security is such a double-edged sword. It can be used for good, it can be used for bad, and it plays such an important role in what we do. And as we have seen, the internet grow, as we've seen banks go online, as we've kind of worried about how do I identify who I am? How do I do identity verification online? I used to go into the bank or into the post office. How do I do that now when I can claim to be Mickey Mouse and unless somebody's already picked Mickey Mouse as an email address, I get it. And so one of the things that has just been consistent through every role that I've had is what are the security implications? What does it mean for products, for how people use them, for how people think? How do we develop them? How do we think about threats? How do we think about risks? And then what's really emerged, I think, in the last 10 years is an awareness of the broader cybersecurity landscape of the nation states, of cybersecurity now, to be totally honest, as a new element of warfare, right? So we now actually talk about kinetic warfare versus cyber warfare and hybrid warfare. We haven't started really thinking enough about that as a society, but I think that's kind of like the next big thing. And when we look at emerging technologies like AI, what is that going to do for how we go down that path, how we protect not only ourselves, our organizations, but society? That's probably a whole separate other conversation, but it is, just to go back to what I said at the beginning, it's one of those things where there is always an interesting problem, and that interesting problem always impacts people. And that's what makes this such a fun place. And that's what I think drove me to being a CISO in the first place, was being able to help influence that to make everything be better. And that's why I'm so attracted to what we're doing with the Professional Association of CISOs, or the PAC, and that is really trying to make sure that the practice of cybersecurity for all cybersecurity professionals, not just CISOs, is one that is recognized, has standards, that we hold ourselves accountable, and that we're paying attention to not just what we need to do with this tool, but what we're doing within our team, for our company, for our society. How do we talk about cybersecurity when we're at a dinner party and someone tells us that they don't have MFA on their bank account, right? We need to really broaden the appeal and understanding of the role that cybersecurity practitioners play within society. We need to be treated as and viewed as the same type of stakeholders as lawyers, as accountants, as medical doctors, those other very, very well established professions.
Yeah.
I want to jump in, Michael, if I can.
Please.
Because I kind of shivered a little bit when you mentioned Tivoli, given my experience building products in the past and trying to use some of that stuff to make things happen. But I guess when I look back over time and the role of cybersecurity and the evolution of the CISO, I think it's a bit of a double-edged sword, a blessing and a curse, in that many of us were involved in trying to figure out how to make the business run with technology.
Yeah.
And then this new fancy word comes around now about resilience. It wasn't necessarily a theme back in the day necessarily, but resilience became an issue connected to cyber threats, and the role of security started to blossom. And I guess what I'm trying to say is we didn't have the security knowledge. We were still trying to understand the technology as well, and we evolved with that. And then we've started to grow with the expansion of the threats and
Yeah.
that type of thing. Today, I'm wondering your perspective on this. Do you find that new security leaders don't have that trajectory of just understanding how business runs, how to use technology to enable it? And there's a lot of focus on what security is and what threats are and what risk is, and we kind of miss some of that stuff. I'm just wondering your
Yeah.
perspective
No, I
on it.
think you're 100% spot on. I think that um, security is a highly technical field. Most of us did grow up technical, and some of us kind of just landed in cybersecurity, but other people are legitimately pursuing it as a career. But it has always been very technically focused, right? And when you think about it, when people think security, right, often if you say, I do cybersecurity at a dinner party, people say, they used to say passwords, and then they would say encryption, and then they would say pen testing, but they would always come up with these very targeted and kind of almost narrow definitions of what they thought it meant, but they were always technical. They are always technical. Nobody says, "Oh, you're helping to protect the business from bad guys," right?
Yeah.
You are enabling the business so that they can succeed to provide services and products to customers that are going to help the customers grow their businesses, that are going to protect everybody's data. We don't think about that often enough, and that's one of the areas that we really, as part of our growing up as a profession, really need to focus. We really need to start to understand that while we are there to keep the bad guys out and to help and to make sure that we can recover quickly when they get in, not if, right? But we are doing this in service of the business, right? Not in service of keeping the bad guys out, right? We are doing this because there is a business that needs protecting, and that business has data, it employs people, it provides a service. And until we really start to embed that in our thinking, we're going to stay pigeonholed in this very technical role where we're kind of pushed off in the corner. We're given at the Christmas dinner, we're the one at the kids' table, we're not at the adults' table. But as we start to learn how to speak business, to understand trade-offs, to understand that, there are going to be situations where we don't get to do what we as security people think absolutely has to happen because the business has said that is really important, but unfortunately these other 7 things are even more important. So how do we manage this situation? It's one that is extremely emotionally difficult for us because we view our role as protectors. And it's really hard if you think about it as a parent, right? When you are a parent, you want to protect your child from every single possible threat. And it's really hard the first time they go off on the bicycle all on their own, going down the street to see their friends, because you're going, what can happen, right? But you have to let them do it.
Yeah. First of all, a great question, Sean, and fine ladies and gentlemen of the audience. This is what a luminary sounds like. So there you go. To my earlier comment, just amazing insight. I was going to circle back to PAC because forgetting that I actually am involved in this and have been on this journey is an amazing journey of advocating and having the origin of this organization. I'm curious as to if you can help the audience understand how has it morphed over time, right? So we started somewhere and at one point, and now it's moved into a different phase. And curious if you can kind of enlighten us on that. It's such an important organization. And I refer to it almost every day in my discussions with CISOs, the advocacy that it provides and the education. So I would love to hear more about how it's kind of morphed over time and, what are some of those expectations for scope moving forward?
Sure. And, it's really, I'm going to start with the origin story because it's actually very interesting. We know that both Tim Brown and Joe Sullivan have incurred pretty eye-bleeding bills for legal defense for themselves.
Mhm.
And a bunch of people started looking at this going, wow, that could be me. And I would lose my house. I would lose my retirement plan. How would I pay for my legal defense if something like this happened? And so a group of people got together and said, well, clearly we need to have a professional liability insurance offering for CISOs. And as is always the case when you're doing these kinds of things, right? Insurance companies, they want for them, there's safety in numbers, right? That's how they built their actuarial tables. That's how they amortize their risk and their cost. And so the insurance company said, well, that's really great, but we want to be dealing with a professional association because that's part of how we're going to manage our risk. And when we started looking at this, we said, okay, we need an association. Fine, it's a way to get people together. And then we really started digging into what other professional associations do, the history, how long medicine has been a profession, and legal and actuary and accounting and you name it. And we really had this aha moment that in order to be viewed as that level of profession, right? If you walk into a party and you say I'm an engineer, people go, oh, you're an engineer, right? We want people to say the same thing when you say I'm a cybersecurity practitioner. And we found that really we needed to have a code of professional conduct to hold ourselves accountable for what are the best behaviors for integrity and honesty and transparency. And we needed to have standards, right? What does a CISO look like? What is a CISO responsible for? What are they accountable for? What are the skills and the expertise and the leadership competencies that we expect them to have? And every time we peeled the onion on kind of what a professional was, we sort of found another area where we need to grow up as a community of cybersecurity practitioners, and where having a professional association will help us with that growth and that leadership. And so now what we've done is we've built out an association, and we have all of the makings of the type of discipline and respect that you get with these other professional associations and professions as a
Right.
whole.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. It's been fascinating to watch. And I've had a kind of a front row seat to the evolution of this. So I'm a bit cheating here, but I'm curious how has it morphed over time? I mean, that's, we started here, and then how big is the organization? Who should be looking at joining this?
Right.
This is an opportunity to get the word. I still think a very, very small fraction, despite all of the marketing and whatnot
Right.
behind the talking about it. This is our megaphone, so we want to make sure we get the word out to everyone too.
Yeah, and look, I'd love the numbers to be even higher than they are, but we officially launched in October and we're well over 100 members now. So I think that that's great. My goal is, I would love for us to be at 1,000 members within the next 18 months. I think that it's aggressive, but it's achievable. Who should join? I think want to be CISOs, deputy CISOs, early career CISOs, mid-career CISOs, established CISOs, everybody that wants to play a leadership role, whether it's with a CISO title or as the head of application security or the head of the tool or whatever. I mean, honestly, we're called the Professional Association of CISOs, but the intention and expectation is that we are there for all cybersecurity practitioners. I think that everybody that wants to be able to say to themselves, I am holding myself accountable to this high bar through our code of professional conduct, should consider joining. I think that everybody that wants to have a career as a CISO or as a cybersecurity leader should join, because we've got programs in place to help you network, develop the skills to work with executive recruiters such as yourself, Michael, to do things like make sure that when you get that job offer, it properly states the things for which you are responsible, for which you are accountable, that offer includes the protections that you need, that you are being set up for success when you go into a company right from day one. And, we do that by partnering with executive recruiters. And then your continued success happens because we are helping you with the standards of skills, expertise, and leadership competencies that you need to help grow both yourself and mature your company through its cybersecurity journey.
Yeah. And by the way, thanks for saying that on the executive recruiting side, because it does. I mean, we will not run a search unless a client commits to either full indemnification or placement on the D&O policy at a CISO level.
Yeah.
We haven't done it in 3 or 4 years. We certainly not about to start doing it if clients don't understand the ramifications of that with all the evidence that's out there. It's not just Tim and Joe, it's a couple dozen others that haven't been publicly named, right? So it's not a flash in the pan that this is never going to happen. Yes, those particular situations have very interesting circumstances that surround them that make them unique, but it's much more common right now. And as much as the final rule attempted and then first try, right? It didn't have the teeth to push back on the organization. So CISOs are definitely on an island. I think very few people understand that still. And so it's great that PAC is behind that. And it's not just come in and just have a stamp of approval, right? There's quite a bit of involved in the timing and the scope. You have attestation and accreditation. So I wonder if you could cover that a bit. In what is involved when someone does join.
Sure. And so we don't require or expect that everybody goes through this overall lowercase accreditation process. But one of the things that we believe is that just as, lawyers and doctors and engineers and so on have to demonstrate competency to be able to practice, we are taking the same approach, and we're rolling out a staged approach to demonstrating these skills. And we spend a lot of time looking and researching sort of how do you really acquire skills, right? You learn them, you go to school, you learn them, you take some tests, and then you go and practice them, right? And and it's very similar, right, to how do you learn to ride a bike, right? You're going to fall off the bike a bunch of times, you're not going to be really great, but you keep practicing and eventually you become beyond proficient. You actually master that skill. And so when we look at learn, practice, mastery, that's really how we are thinking about how you go through and go through the accreditation process. So in 2026, we'll roll out something to help with the learn, and we're going to call that CISO Ready Attestation. What we are rolling out right now is attestation, and that is an evaluation of your practice. How do you practice the skills? How do you practice good communication, collaboration, relationship building, strategic thinking? And so you build a leadership portfolio where you talk about how you practice these skills, and we then work with you to say, this is really great, here's some areas where we think that you need to sort of improve or strengthen your practice so that you can get to mastery. And you demonstrate mastery through what we call accreditation. And accreditation is modeled very much on what you would do with a PhD in an oral examination, where you will come in and, unlike practice where you are talking about what you did, for accreditation, we're really looking at hypothetical. How would you do something? And we were very mindful that we wanted to do practice before we did theory, because everybody knows how to pass a theory test, right? You study for it and you practice it. But what the theory test doesn't do is really poke on what happens when something really bad happens, right? Everybody knows the theory of how to respond to an incident, right? I have my playbook. I follow my playbook. What not everybody knows is when that incident actually happens. And my playbook says the first thing I do is I call my CEO. But now I'm in that instance and my team is panicking. I've got to get them under control. I've got to do all of these other things. And all of a sudden, 12 hours later, and I haven't called my CEO. Right. So understanding how you practice is critical to get in place before you start talking about what is the theory. And so we were very mindful of this, because this isn't how other certifications work. Other certifications work, you get a test and you get the checkbox. We're really, you need to practice it, you continue to practice it, and once we know that you know how to practice it, then we're going to start throwing those theoretical situations at you where you can really shine and show how would you talk to the board, how would you talk to the executive leadership team when you do this. So it is a stage thing, it's an evolution, it is really intended to help all levels of CISO, from early career to those that have been doing this for a while. Had a really, really interesting conversation with somebody that I consider to be one of the greats in the CISO department the other day. And he was talking about going and getting a new role. He's changing his role. And I was blown away when he said, I've been doing this for 30 years. I kind of thought I knew everything. Because of what we're doing here with the PAC, and because of how we've been looking at attestation and accreditation and competencies and what we need to have in my job description and in my protections as a CISO, I was able to negotiate a better role for myself. I was able to do things that I wouldn't have been able to do without the PAC. Amazing. And I was blown away, because I kind of thought he's the one that knows it all. So there's always stuff to learn.
Right. And you have to be willing to learn, and I would agree with that. So on the exec search side, by the way, I mean, once we get through on a candidate's kind of full biopsy of what they've done, how they've done it, who they did it with, 80% of the time I spend with CISOs and other security executives is really understanding the why, and why they come to these conclusions, but also their storytelling capabilities, right? So this is what companies are. I mean, we're running multiple searches right now where the cognitive testing and all that is being done, but it's really more how you frame a discussion of an experience and evidence that you went through that, so that when you're navigating this company through, towards the rocky shores, that they know that you're going to be a great commander, right? Incident commander, and post, during, to the media, to your board, to your team, to make sure, we've got this, right? You don't have all the answers, but we've been through this. We know what it looks like. Everything is different, or every scenario is different. But this is what we've done in the past. And by the way, this is what I've learned from my mistakes. That's the kind of narrative we want to hear. That's the storytelling we want to hear. If it were up to me, I would get rid of resumes in a second, right? I think resumes are a crutch. I've been very vocal about this. I think it's all about our storytelling and being able to put that into a digestible format for everyone else in the organization to understand. And I think PAC brings us there. Really focuses on that thing, which is a very new muscle for many CISOs because of what you said earlier. A lot of them originated from a highly technical place, and so this is not their everyday discussions, right? But they're getting much better at it. I mean, it's almost unrecognizable from when we started this business to where we are now, as far as how many great storytellers there are out there. Because also there's a lot of great stories. There's no shortage of content to talk about, right? Like, you're getting attacked every minute of every day by different adversaries. And so it's pretty amazing to watch. I just applaud you and the team. I've gotten to know, I know most of the people on the team, the founding team, but just getting a lot closer to them and seeing what they've built is really incredible. So thank you for that. I guess, looking forward, Heather, what do you want to accomplish moving forward? I mean, this is a big year, 2025. If you can, by the way, Happy New Year, Sean. I didn't even say Happy New Year. How rude of me.
It is a new year.
My first time seeing you since you were like on the other side of the world for like 6 months. So, but yeah, what's in store for us? We have big conferences coming up and whatnot. What does 2025 look like to you, and what success look like?
I'm going to tie that into an observation that I wanted to make based on your previous comments, right?
Sure.
When you are going into a CISO role, trust is critical. And it takes time to establish trust. We all know that, right? We want to trust and then verify. And one of the things that we believe is that by going through the attestation and accreditation process, we're going to be able to jumpstart that trust, because you're coming with, what you would call that good housekeeping seal of approval that says, how to do that storytelling, how to do that leadership, remain calm under pressure, partner, and so on and so on. And I think that that trust and that transparency and that verification is a large part of what we want to accomplish in 2025, which is to continue to grow the membership. I would love to, by the end of the year, have taken 100 people through attestation and 25 people through accreditation. Those numbers sound low, but on average, it takes on my side, when we are reviewing attestation packages, it's about 10 hours a package. When we're reviewing accreditation packages, I expect that it'll be 20 hours a package for several of us. So this is a big effort on our part because we are really investing in your career, your growth, your skills. So I would love to, by the end of the year, be at 750 members, 100 plus attested, 25 plus accredited. I would like to have been through a couple of revisions of our code of professional conduct and really socialized that within the community and started to see how people are able to use that as armor. Here's my armor to protect me if my organization asks me to do something that's not quite right, I can say, I am obliged to do this. This is what my code of professional conduct says. So I'd like to really see people using that code of professional conduct to help protect themselves and their organizations. And, I would really love, and this is not entirely in my control, this is not in my control at all, to be in a position to not have to protect CISOs or help protect CISOs who are being subject to subpoenas because of activist investors or, other sorts of investigations. And that's something else I wanted to just comment on. You touched a little bit on it earlier, Michael, right? The Joe and Tim, that is the exception to the rule. Absolutely. We don't know, because they're all held confidential, the exact numbers of CISOs that have been subject to investigations by the SEC, by the FTC, by investors, by whatever. But anecdotally, the number of CISOs who have been subject to subpoenas is shockingly high.
Yes.
You've been in this space long enough, this happens to you. And so I would really like to not have to be there to help protect CISOs, but for those that do need protecting, I really want us to be there to help them, to be the people standing beside them, holding them up and saying, you've got the weight of the association behind you. We're going to help you work through this. We've got a group of lawyers that are here to sort of help you. We have people who have been through this experience so that we can help you with mental health, because it's a huge, huge toll on you, on your physical and mental health when you go through this. We have a community that can be here to help you, right? I don't want to have to use that community, but I want it to be there in case we need it.
Yeah, I love that. And, it's gotten to the point where it used to be the badge of honor was to know if you've made it to the CISO level is, have you been through an active breach, right? And have you navigated? Now it's like, have you been deposed?
Yes.
Like,
yeah, exactly.
I'm now asking that question in my interviews, just to see, like what level of barnacles this person might actually have created. And I'm actually next week I'm on a little mini tour again with Mr. Sullivan, a three city tour, and we're going to be talking about a lot of these subjects in our dinners. And I'm excited because he always has new and refreshed versions of everything that's going on. And it's, for him, it's an evolving situation, Tim as well, and others. So, yeah, I mean, I would say there are, dozens of individuals I've spoken to that have been through this, that haven't been named publicly. It's a pretty scary thing. I'm not saying it's going to come down on everyone, but your level of preparation and protection and proactiveness around that and where we hope to go, and your vision of success, I think, is very much in alignment with the community. And so, again, greatly appreciate that. Is there anything else we're missing about PAC? Is there a way that people can get involved? You've got RSA around the corner, Black Hat's not too far. I mean, is there things that people can be getting together and learning from this community?
We are going to be having some events at red hat, I said black hat.
Red hat sounds great.
RSA.
Red
Right?
hat, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to be having some events at RSA. So, we would love to have people join us both just as members and then at RSA. Uh, we pride ourselves in sort of being by the community for the community. So I really would encourage people who want to give back, who have thoughts about the types of things that we can do to help CISOs, who want to join and help us as we refine the types of benefits, working with executive recruiting firms to help us refine job descriptions and protections for CISOs. So, if you have good, bad, or indifferent experience in your career as a CISO, we would really love to have you come and join us and help. And this is anybody that wants to come and join. We do require that you be a member because you have to sign the Code of Professional Conduct to participate in these events. But this is not something that is US only. We are focused on the US for this year just because logistically we can't boil the ocean. But we will be aggressively moving into the rest of the world, hopefully starting in 2026. And if somebody is in, I don't know, Germany, and they want to come and be a part and help us now, we are more than happy to have people. So this isn't a US only, and neither are the threats to CISOs. They are not as US only. They are not driven by the SEC. They're not going away with the change of administration. These are global threats to CISOs that we need to be dealing with, as a global community.
Right. Here. We talk about goals and what's the success look like. I would like to state here that by 2027, I would like to see member of PAC on every job description for a CISO.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
Yeah. And I'm happy to start that. But right now I'm just going to be like, what's that? But for my clients, I'll have to explain it. But I want the client to understand that is a certification level and accreditation that is just like if it's the CFO as the hiring manager, they should understand that right away. Right. Like you said, doctors have Hippocratic oaths and everyone else, lawyers, and you have a certain bar to hit. And I think this is really a special organization run by very special people. It's no accident that yourself and several others who have done so much for the community are jumping in to do this. Val is incredible. Just has an engine that just won't stop. And I love.
I don't know where he gets his energy.
I have no idea. That's we'll try to get him on the episode too, Sean, but hold on tight because he goes quick and I love him. So
and maybe we can pull something together for RSA.
Yes, it'd be better than you and I just staring at each other. That'd be great. That was actually Black Hat where we stared at each other, but we could do that again.
Well, we can do that, and Heather and a few others as well. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, that would be great.
We'll have space there in the broadcast alley. So, I wanted to
jump in and say, for those people that want to find us, we are theciso.org. We have a webpage where you can go and start to see some of our stuff. You can apply to join from there. I'm Heather at the CISO. So if somebody wants to, ask about the association and you want to do it privately, I'm happy to answer your emails. I'm not always the greatest at, I don't sit in front of emails. So I kind of look at it once a day, but I promise that if people have questions and they want to reach out, I will answer. So just, I wanted to get that in, Sean, just because I'm looking at the time and I wanted to make sure we didn't lose that piece.
Yep. I love that. And I have a gazillion questions and I don't know, maybe we can have another conversation on some of the inner workings and because we talked briefly about CISOs being on an island. You said that, Michael, and this being an accreditation to present the CISO in a trusted way. And I think there's the other side of that coin, right? So the insurers, the hiring organizations, the boards, SEC, right? The work that you're doing initially is designed to protect the CISO and give them some of that backing. But I think there are other parties that also will need to verify and trust what you're doing with this group too.
So Michael didn't ask where 5 years, but 5-10 years from now, I'd like us to actually be required to be accredited and licensed the way a doctor is.
Yeah.
I would like us to be, when somebody in government has a question about the CISO role, right? We're one of the entities that they go to. We are able to help lobby for this, global standards. And we are a respected and sought out advisor when governments or entities are coming up with new laws and regulations, right? We are there when the EU is setting out product liability rules, and we are able to provide respected feedback that is taken into account on the implications of these things, and that we are able to partner with those types of leaders to help. Because look, I started out talking about hybrid warfare and cybersecurity's role in hybrid warfare. I think that's a huge change that we're going to have to make. And if we don't have a profession that is speaking for us, if we don't have ways for us to really formalize things like information sharing, which is something I didn't talk about at all, but it's necessary. If we are not, as a community, in lockstep on what do we do, how do we talk about it, how do we share information, how do we collectively protect our organizations and our societies, we run the risk of some really bad things happen. And I don't want to be that negative person, but I think that realistically, we have to be paying attention to this and proactively getting in front of it. And that's one of the longer term things that I think we really have to be paying attention to.
Here, here.
Well, I love what you're doing, and hopefully we can have more chats, and I hope to meet you in San Francisco at RSA.
Awesome.
And Heather, it's been amazing. Michael, as always, good to see you, my friend.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, thank you for doing this, Sean. And Heather, it's just amazing to have you. I look forward to talking to you in the next few weeks. So
great. Take care.
The CISO.org. Check it out. Join, participate, support, and please do stay tuned to Redefining Cybersecurity. Thanks everybody for listening and watching. We'll catch you on the next one. Thanks all.